Welcome to the Hangry Games Arena, where Kelly Brewster, the author of What's Eating You and host of the Hangry Games, is shaking up the weight loss world. She's providing you with tons of resources and helpful tips to obtain your long-term wellness and weight loss goals once and for all. The Hangry Games is recorded and produced at Open Space Studios.
Welcome back, Hangry Game Nation. It is so good to be back in the studio today with you. I am freaking out. I cannot believe that we're already on the 18th episode with you guys. It has been an absolute blast. Thank you for your feedback. I truly appreciate your support and just your following through this incredible journey. It really has been a lot of fun. I do take it back. I actually love podcasts now. So what I realized is that these last few episodes that we've been doing, I've been giving you this huge, tremendous serving size of information, I should say, all at one time. And we know what happens when we eat too much too quickly and we just not able to retain it all, right? And that's about all I'm going to use for that analogy, but you kind of understand where I'm going with that. In all seriousness, though, in evaluating just, where we've come from, where we're going to be going with this journey, I just really feel like it's important that I do a little bit smaller portions. In other words, we're going to finish up in about 20, 25 minutes so you can be on that treadmill and get that information in before you go, or maybe on that commute. But still have the same great quality and good delicacies in that content that we're looking for and looking forward to hearing. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there just so that you know. But today we are going to tackle true lies. You know they lie like a rug. They're the masters of the shell game, and they use us as their unwilling subjects. Food retailers are the masterminds behind some incredible deceptions. I mean, incredible when it comes to food labeling and categorizing their food products. So it's bad enough that we have tons of ridiculous food choices out there that you need almost like a master's in foreign language interpretation just to purchase an item at the grocery. So just to help us with the weight loss and wellness journey, right? So it's low fat, less sugar, all natural, gluten-free, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on. It really does. So today we are addressing those popular food labels, the ones that draw us in like a moth to a flame. And we're going to pull back that curtain to figure out which ones are legit and which ones are just a bunch of tomfoolery, okay? All right. So one of the biggest misnomers out there has to be sugar or fat-free. So sugar-free or fat-free. Everyone is looking for fat-free and sugar-free, right? We all want that. We really do if we had the opportunity and the choice. Of course, back in the late 90s, I know this all too well, which does tell you a little bit about my age, but Snackwells, I know y'all know what I'm talking about, the Snackwells, right? They were green box and they had like the devil's food cookies. They were scrumdiddlyicious, but if I would have known anything like I know now, I would have made a killing in the stock market. I'd have been, retired early because they touted, their big thing was fat-free. This is fat-free because back in the 90s, it was all about the fat in the product. But when you take the fat from something, what did the cookie have tons of? Sugar, people. Just because it states that it's fat-free, it doesn't mean that there are no calories or sugars in the product. Let's take fat-free vanilla frozen yogurt, for example. Just as many calories as your full-fat version. Believe it or not, it really is. The calories are coming from what? They're increasing the sugar so that the taste is essentially the same for you. If they're trying to sell you a flavorful product, but remove one of the components from that product, they have to make up for it some kind of way. Now, some products will even say like 0 trans fats. Well, honestly, as bad as trans fats are, for you, the ideal intake for that is none if we could avoid that, right? Those are the bad fats. When you see a product on the shelf that says always, and I mean always, you need to see this. If it says no trans fats on the label or fat-free or sugar-free, read the label, check that label, okay? Seriously, any of those things. Let's talk about some of the things that it may say for trans fats, right? hydrogenated oils or shortening, then there is still trans fats present in the product. Well, Kelly, what are some examples of this? Because I don't know if I really understand this. All right, Little Debbie's, Hubig's Pies, and of course, our ding dongs. Those all contain trans fats, okay? Another one, fried, battered, like that, fried and heavily battered foods definitely have trans fats, right? Another hard pill to swallow. You ready for this one? Refrigerated cookie dough. It is tons of trans fats in it. So, when you're thinking about fat-free and you're thinking about, okay, they're taking that fat out, make sure it's the right fats. There are good fats out there. There's avocados, walnuts, salmon. Those are good fats, your fatty acids. But when you're looking to avoid some of those fat-frees, just make sure if it says no trans fats, it says what it means, right? Okay, sugar, let's talk about all things sugar-free. Same exact thing. When it says sugar-free, you can still have the same amount of calories in an option that has maybe less sugar in it. Not to mention, what have they done? They probably have bumped up the fat in the product to accommodate for flavor. Remember, they got to make sure that the product is something you want to eat. And so if they take everything out, but they don't put something in and substitute, you're going to kind of know it, So we all know that sugar, especially refined sugar, really should be eaten in moderation at best. Now, when a label says no sugar added, we've all heard this one, right? No sugar added. All that means is that they didn't add any additional sugar in the process of making the product that you're consuming, okay? It doesn't mean that there is no sugar at all. It just means they didn't add anything to it, okay? Read the label, my Hungry Game Nation peeps, okay? Make sure you know and you just don't assume that there is little or no sugar when you see that on the label. Read the label. We have heard the terms reduced sugar or even sugar-free, or like I mentioned a second ago, no sugar added. And these are all terms that are recognized by the FDA, and there are specific definitions for these. But what about lightly sweetened? You've heard of that one before? Yeah, that's a new one. Because you know what? They know that you're privy to, they know you're becoming stealthier as a consumer. So they have to be a little bit more stealthier than you, right? So lightly sweetened, what does that mean? It means it immediately, you need to go to the label and find the sugar. Okay, go down to sugar and see exactly what that says. It really means that they have to have at least 10% or less sugar as a daily intake. So if it's above this, then you probably need to stay clear of it. Okay. So when they say lightly sweetened, what you're looking for is less than 10% of your daily intake. If not, leave it on the shelf. You don't need it. Remember, refined sugars can make our blood glucose rise very quickly and then fall suddenly. And it does make us feeling lethargic and in need of what? Another little sugar hit, right? So if we can do anything, let's make sure that we are very educated on those labels and what we can do. Now, sugar-free should be just that in a fair world. If it said sugar-free, we should know that it's sugar-free. But again, read those labels, folks, because yes, it's supposed to be free of any and all sugar, but according to the FDA, it just has to have less than 0.5 grams per serving to meet the FDA definition. And there you go. It's not free. Nothing's for free. Come on now. And many times they'll replace that sweetness of the sugar with sugar alcohol, such as mannitol, xylitol, and sorbitol, which are lower in calorie. But honestly, I'm just not sure how healthy those are for you, for your body long term. So just be cautious. And again, be educated. That's the big thing. All right. Well, what about the phrase organic or natural or even free range? That's another one that's, I think, it's the big trendy hot phrase that people are using now. These terms really refer more to how the ingredients were farmed or processed, but they're not really about the ingredients themselves. And basically, in a nutshell, if artificial ingredients, food coloring, are not put into the product, they can actually say the product is natural, even if they didn't naturally procure it. Okay. So obviously, there's some room for interpretation there. And I think they're going to always err on their side, not yours, when it comes to what they're going to put on the label. And I would venture to say they're going to probably stretch that truth of what's in the product. The biggest thing for natural is that they have to go through a minimal amount of steps to process and provide an explanation, of the natural label. So in other words, if they tell you it's all natural, yogurt, then it has to have a minimum process and meet the requirements for a minimum process for them to put that on the label. I love free range. We had chickens for several years. In fact, we named them after my great aunts, Ethel, Potsy, Gertrude, and Stella. That's right. I know. I heard it too. It's kind of crazy names, but they were my great aunts. And those were all the hot names back in the day. But if the label on the eggs in your fridge say free range, that doesn't mean those little chickadees got to live the high life, chasing bugs and butterflies, all while they're laying these nice little organic eggs for you, okay? No. There are no requirements for outside access for the chickens, the duration, or even the quality of outdoors. They just need to be able to roam inside indoor houses and have access to fresh food and water and have constant outdoor access, which may be either like a net covering or a fenced area. So they're not free ranging. They are technically ranging inside of a facility. So the facility can be outdoors, but it's covered, fenced, covered on top, things like that. Okay. I sometimes think that even in this case, you need to ask the right questions, getting them from even a local farmer is the way to go. I loved getting my own eggs. I knew what my chickens ate. If I had leftover, I'm cutting up vegetables for prepping and I've got the bottom of a celery, or I've got some leftover lettuce, or whatever the case may be, I'm throwing it out to them. I know what they're eating, right? The food that I'm giving them every day from the corn and the chicken food and all that stuff, I know what they're getting. The scratch that they were getting, I knew what they were getting. And all that does make a difference. I knew when they were able to roam outside. When we were home, we were able to allow them to do that, what type of food they were eating. When you know all that, there is a really big feeling of reassurance when you know that what you're getting is actually living an optimal life to produce a good product for you. But free range doesn't mean that, like I said, they're chasing those little butterflies and they're living the high life, okay? Now, another name that is kind of this misnomer and could be a true lie is, what about organic? Organic is a huge trendy topic right now. And basically it looks like this. If the label says 100% organic, then all the ingredients have to be organic, no chemicals, no GMOs, which remember is genetically modified organisms. And organic is 95% or greater should be grown without synthetic fertilizer and pesticides. Now, did you hear the percentage that I just told you? What did I just say? 95%, not 100, 95. That means that 5% of an organic product can still have pesticides, fertilizer, and synthetic product in it. Now, it's supposed to be made with organic ingredients, means the product has to have only 70% of its contents from an organic source, and specific organic ingredients is anything with organic products that falls under 70. So I'm going to repeat this because I want you to understand this when you're shopping. Organic, if it says organic on the label, 95% or greater comes from an organic product, right? If it says made with organic ingredients, it only has to meet 70% of the content to fall under that label. And if it says any other organic products, that falls below 70. So they can still put organic somewhere in that label and they can get away with it. So you guys have to be stealthier. You have to be stealthier than the retailers, and you got to know what you're buying. Now, these guys are supposed to be free from dyes, artificial flavors, etc., but organic doesn't always mean healthy, okay? I mean, you can eat a stick of organic butter every day and you aren't going to be doing yourself any favors, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? So you still have to eat healthy foods. If it's coming from an organic source, great, but also know what your calories are and what you're consuming. And organic really only speaks to the process that it took to get to you and not necessarily the nutritional value of that product, okay? So, what about those products that have those magical immune boosting capabilities? I am so glad you asked. The problem with these guys is there is no product on the market, okay, that can boost your current immune system. And I want you to hear me when I say that. There's none that can boost your immune system. The other caveat here is that sometimes having an overactive immune system can result in potentially developing an autoimmune disorder. So be careful about overindulging in some of these products. Yes, there are some products that are beneficial to your immune system, but they don't enhance your immune system, okay? Things like vitamins or mineral deficits that you might have, you're replenishing that, then that's important, like vitamin D, vitamin C, and E, or some of the supplements that, if deficient, are going to do wonders for you if you are taking them and giving you that positive result that you're looking for. But none of them are going to boost you to this optimum state, okay? So how do they get around that? Like, how are they doing this and like they're getting away with it? I don't get it, Kelly. Well, most will use the verbiage immunity blend, or this is a good one because I've seen this a lot, supports your immune system. Well, of course it supports your immune system. It's keeping it the same. It's not boosting your immune system. You see what I'm saying? You really gotta know the labels. Know that these guys are walking a very fine line here, and they can't say they do something for your health that they can't, in fact, produce. So that's why they say it supports. That's why I say it's immune blend, because they know that when you see immunity, you're drawn to it like a moth to a flame, right? I know. When some products make health-based claims that are in essence opening themselves up to scrutiny from the FDA and the Fed Trade Commission. So they are walking a fine line here, but again, if they can draw you in with just a little bit of a shell game with those names and how they place them on the label, then they're fine. They're following all the rules. We just have to be the ones that are stealthier, you know? It's all about the Hunger Games. What about some ingredient phrases like gluten-free or 2% fat? These are some common ones that we see. Finally, we're getting to talk gluten-free, right? I knew you were going to get there at some point, right? Gluten is a protein found in grains such as wheat, rye, and other grains. It can wreak havoc on individuals that have celiac disease or gluten intolerance. But that is not everybody, people. Not everybody is gluten intolerant, okay? Not everybody has celiac disease. This is probably one of the trendiest new statements and phrases that we see now. And because of this, it has made these products just really more accessible to those that have celiac and glucose intolerance. But for all of you other guys out there, there's no advantage to consuming them. Yeah, you might feel a little bit better, maybe not as much bloating, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's not something that's enhancing your health necessarily, okay? Now, when the product has less gluten or gluten-free, contains less protein and fiber, which means it can have more saturated fats, carbs, and even salt. Remember, when they take something away, something's got to come into its place, okay? So what about the 2% biggest thing there? I mean, everybody hears 2% milk, 2% yogurt, and all that kind of stuff. Here's where more fat that's taken out of the milk or the dairy, they've got to do something to flavor that product. We know that whole milk is rich, it's thick, it's decadent kind of thing. And if you drink whole milk and then you drink 2% and then you drink 1% and then you drink fat-free, there's a difference in the thickness of the milk, the taste of the milk, just the whole quality all around, right? Well, that's part of the problem. They're taking the flavor out. So when they start removing all this fat from the product, what are they going to do to make sure that you still want to drink this milk, because fat-free, it's probably going to be like Elmer's glue, right? So what do? They add, you guessed it, sugar to it. If you don't believe me, go look at the milk the next time you're there. Look at whole, look at 1%, look at 2%, and tell me if it's not true. I guarantee you there's more sugar in the fat-free. Whole grain, same thing. When it says that would include like popcorn, brown rice, oatmeal, other products that kind of retain their fiber content. If it says multi-grain, that's not the same thing. Okay. So whole grain and multi-grain are not the same thing. Please don't go by the color of the grain either. They actually some darker breads actually have caramel color in them to improve the product's visual appearance. Yeah, I know. That's right. It's a shell game, folks, and you need to be stealthier than the food retailer. Read the label. Whole grain is whole grain. It's got the grain to it. It's got the seed or what have you. I think that there's Ezekiel bread is actually a sprouted bread, which is really good. But yeah, other than that, when it says multi-grain, not so much. What about if it says made with real fruit? It's a good one. Any food labels that have real fruit on the label is under the Food Safety and Inspection Service, a subsidiary of the FDA, and it is under a certain degree of scrutiny. However, please still read the label and ensure it is coming from a natural food source. The orange and fruit juices in the store are notorious for this, even to the point that those particular products that say they have real pulp may not actually have orange pulp in them, but synthetically processed or manufactured pulp consistency. I know the radio audience, that the podcast audience cannot see my face, but it's the Kelly face. Really? Are you kidding me? Don't look at the pictures on the front. Don't look at the beautiful little orange on the front of your, Simply Good or whatever it is. Read the labels. Know it. They'll put a baby. I'll put a monkey for bananas, the baby for baby food. They're going to try anything they can to get you to buy it. And if there's a pineapple on the front, make sure there's actual pineapple in it. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? They literally are trying to entice you by what you see, not by what you read. So be the consumer that's stealthier. What about omega-3s, Kelly? I mean, what's up with that? Yeah, I like this one too, because you know what? They started putting on milk and other products like that. Yes, this is kind of a crazy one. There are 3 types of fatty acids. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce some of these, but you know me, I'm not really good with pronunciation. We have the docosahexaenoic, or the DHA, which you do see on the milk, right? And we do want our pregnant moms to be on DHA. There's the eicosapentaenoic, EPA. Last time I'll say that. And then there's the alpha-linolenic acid, ALA. Now, we really need omega-3 fatty acids for energy, tissue growth, but not all of these guys are created equal. And so this is really important that you know the difference between them. EPA and DHA are more beneficial, in fact, than ALA, because ALA actually has not shown any proven health benefits for the heart. So EPA and DHA do show health benefits to the heart. And DHA is really good for brain and eye development in the fetus. Some foods like flaxseed are high in ALA, but not much for EPA or DHA. So those guys that are on big flaxseed kicks, you're not actually getting the right omega for your body necessarily. Now you're getting good fiber and you could be getting some other things from that. But overall, from a heart perspective, that one's not the one you're going to go for. The last one that I want to cover is serving size, because this one can really do a number on most individuals. Serving size refers to the amount of the product the person should eat at one time. The nutritional label that is now mandatory to have on any food products shows what is included in the one serving size. Make sure you always look at what the one serving size is, okay? Many of us look at it and we look at the calories like, oh, it's 100 calories. This is great. Until we realize that it's the size of a nickel. And you're like, and you just ate 5 of them, okay? It's like, oh, but they were so small. Read the serving sizes. When it says a half a cup, if you got the little, cups, the dry mixing cups, and the measuring cups I'm talking about, a half a cup's not a lot. So make sure you understand it, right? Also, make sure if you are a creature of habit, you get the same things over and over again, that there hasn't been any change in the serving sizes as well. That'll happen too. They'll slice it a little bit thicker or they do something different. And in fact, it does throw a wrench in your plans and you don't even know what's going on. And it happens quicker than you even know. So even though you're become a creature of habit and you're always buying those same things, make sure you're still checking that label out every now and then, okay? I think the biggest takeaway that I would have for you guys today is become an educated consumer. Be stealthier than the food retailer. They always want to be one step ahead of you. They really do. They're not out there to make you healthier or thinner. They're really in it to make money. That is why many of these companies spend crazy amounts of money on commercials, marketing campaigns, and strategies. Because why? They want you to buy their product. It's not because they're on a quest to make the consumer the healthiest and the best wellness that they can possibly achieve. No. And maybe in a very small way, they may have that mindset. But at the end of the day, it's all about the duckies, honey. The bennies, the money, okay? Spend some time really researching in the best possible place. The grocery. That's the best place for you to do the research. Go when it's raining or when LSU is in the championship game. I had to get that one in there. Go Tigers. It's so awesome. I'm talking about when there's like no one in the grocery store, okay? And you can spend 2 hours and you just looking at labels and scanning it on like either FitnessPal or Weight Watchers or whatever and really understanding what's in the product, right? Because you don't want to fall to any of their Ponzi schemes or any of what the food conglomerates are trying to throw at you. You want to know that when you're on this wellness and weight loss journey, that you have all the right things in place, right? And I just cannot believe it's already that time, but of course I'm trying to shorten it up now a little bit. Thanks for hanging with me today. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified of upcoming episodes. And when they drop, make sure to check out prepfor.com for our latest and greatest in news, events. We are participating in. We just had one in Slidell last week. It was amazing. Shout out to those guys. It was a wonderful time spending time with them and just talking about my favorite topics, right? We talked about stick-to-itiveness and it was incredible. They had great questions. They were very interactive and it was just an amazing event. We also have our latest recipes if you want to go on there and check them out. Follow us on that website, though, so that you can get some of that. And also on Facebook as well for weekly tips of the trade, just motivations and so many different things. But have a blessed one today. I pray that you have a great weekend. Hangry Gang Nation, I love spending time with you. Remember from last week, we want to layer the flavor, right? All right. I'll see you next time. Have a great one, okay? I'll talk to you later. Bye.